Hi everyone, Jeff Gordon here from Writers Bootcamp. Welcome to Creative Currency. At Writers Bootcamp, the primary slogan is "The secret to writing is writing," although writers who want to have a career need to learn rewriting extensively because that's where the payday is earned truly. I conduct 9 times a year a 10-week process we call basic training. It's more than basic for writers who have experience, but it's a great foundation for newer writers and artists, actors and filmmakers to create vehicles. We take you from idea through 3 drafts of a feature film script or a TV pilot, or the foundation in 150 pages of a book. Some books are only around that, depending on what they are, as we'll see today. And then we have an ongoing pro membership. There's an initial 18 months of support to develop 3 or 4 or 5 projects, an arsenal of work to prepare for becoming representable as a writer. So welcome to Creative Currency. We're waiting for Kelly Browne. Ladies and gentlemen,
Hey.
Kelly Browne.
Hi, Jeff.
It's so great to
How are
see
you?
you.
It's so great to see you. What's going on?
How are your travels?
My travels are good. I'm live here in Washington, D.C. at my sister's house.
Oh, it looks like a lovely home.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm so well. It's great
Good.
that it's Friday. It's been a
Right?
warm week in Venice, which is rare. Hey, Kel, you're an alumnus and also an accomplished author,
Thank you.
and you have experience in the business and understand contextually how it works and what goes on. But it's always fun for me to ask, because it's somewhere deep in the recesses of our old database, how you found out about Writers Bootcamp.
Oh my gosh, you know what? It was a million years ago because sitcoms were so hot at the time, and you were doing a sitcom class. I think I saw it in Daily Variety, and people were
Yes, we
talking about
advertise.
you. Yeah, people were talking about you. And I had just come off a television show called Moonlighting. And I
Nice.
thought, hey, I would really love to explore this and be good at it. And so I took your sitcom writing class in Westwood. That's how
What
I
was great
started.
at the time, it was separate, and then shortly after, because the distinctions between television and feature films are are important.
Hmm.
They're more similar than they are different, dependent on multiple storylines and, the recurring conceits and working mechanics of a series. And back then, so we integrated TV and features and books. We just make distinctions depending on what somebody's writing, and that's helpful to the other writers. But at the time, sitcom was, in a great era, half
Yes.
hour,
Yes.
multi-camera. And so we were able to do many of those. We probably did 20 or 30 separate groups over a 4 or 5 year period. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I was so grateful for that class because it really got me into that structured mindset of how things should be done. And I think as a writer, it's very easy to just want to sit down and write. Oh, I see the idea. I just want to sit down. I'm going to write it. And all of a sudden you're at page 60 and you've written yourself into a hole and you don't know where to go. So I think that
Yeah.
what I learned with Writers Boot Camp is, oh no, we've got to lay down the structure. I always look at the way you teach like as a hanger and thinking things out and this character and the dialogue. And I love your class. I'm so
Thank you.
grateful to have met you, and I've taken your class many times actually.
We
So
appreciate
yeah,
returning
yeah,
customers. Structure is crucial if you don't know it. And once you know it, it's tertiary. Character development helps attract and maintain audience engagement and involvement. And then fresh entertainment is what we're in it for. That structure and character development work together. I mean, structure without character development is formula. And we're
right.
not teaching formula, we're teaching the form. And it's the the nuances and the distinctions that a writer makes. You've always had that point of view, but also I wonder, how closely do you think your writing the nature of your expression is a function of your personality as well.
1,000%, 1,000%. Yeah, 100%. I write like that. Yeah.
And your first book, 101 Ways to Say Thank You.
First book. Yeah.
Exactly. And thank you for the signed copy back in
My
the day.
pleasure. My pleasure.
What was your segue to determine that? And did you grow up? Like, was your mom Miss Manners? How
No,
did you learn etiquette?
actually, I grew up doing a lot of volunteer work. I was part of National Charity League. It was like a
Hmm.
debutante training program, but my mom was always into, the idea of being grateful and, having poise and confidence and, all of those things. So what happened is I was a development person for Freddie Fields. And I had a lot of background in contacting agents and writing outlines and things like that. And I had written a lot of thank you notes when I got married and when I had children. And I wrote them all on the computer and I saved them. And people
Hmm.
started responding and saying, oh wow, these are so good. And I thought, well, as a writer, what can I write that people will want more of, that people will have to keep going back to? So I thought, I'm just going to see what I can do about writing this into a book proposal, going out on the market, and I sold it. I sold it. I had no experience in books whatsoever.
How did you conceptualize that or describe that at the time?
Well, what I did is I thought, hmm, what are all the subject matters that somebody could write a thank you note for? And what, like, people weren't writing thank you notes because they didn't know how to do it. And I thought, well, this is so easy. Like, how can I help people just understand the basics of, you have stationery handy and it's just a conversation. Just say, thank you so much. I love the gift. I so appreciate you thinking of me. Even if you just said that, putting it in an envelope and mailing it through the mail, that will make someone's day. It's like, I always believe that the magic of gratitude is contagious. But more importantly, bringing it back to Writers Boot Camp, I learned in Writers Boot Camp the structure of how to do this, right? How to lay it out, how to have an outline, how to, like, what it looks like to have the beginning, middle, and end. Like, I knew where I was
Right.
going. So it gave me that foundation of what it should look like professionally to go to an agent. And then I signed with an agent who's still my agent.
That's amazing.
And yeah, it
And
was amazing. And
was
I'm
it the
so
first,
grateful.
was it the first agent you went to or the first, and
No.
how many publishers did they go to?
Oh my goodness. Well, this is years ago, right? The first agent went out and it didn't sell the first time around. The second time around, I switched to a different agent, right? I went back to school, got my degree. And the second time around, chick lit was really popular. And the title had 101 in the title because I wanted it to come up first on Amazon. It was originally 101 thank yous, right?
Got it.
That's what I wanted that's what it was. So when it sold, they changed it to the Down to Earth Debutante's Guide to Gratitude. That's how it sold. And then they
Got
changed
it.
the title back. So,
And what was their perspective on the title change
I
later?
think it was when I said to them, hey, the number has to be in the title so that it comes
Alphabetically,
up.
yeah,
Right. And then we need to
numerically.
have, right. And then we need to have, like, breaking it down into 10 chapters and then having 10 thank you notes per chapter so that you have 100 for all different parts of your life, from business, weddings, funerals, babies, whatever. And so that's how it sold. So I had no intentions of being an author. I never thought that was going to happen. I really did it as a writing sample so that I would have, be published. But again, in order to do that, I did like a magazine article. I wrote like a little column in like the Pierce College newspaper, so that you had some writing credits. Like, it's like you always talk about building on things, right? And so I did like little tiny writing things to get bigger and bigger and bigger, so that when I did go to the agent, I could show them like writing samples that I have done.
And
Today things are different,
those
but
smaller victories
yeah,
create a step ladder toward confidence, right?
absolutely. And it
And
didn't matter if you weren't paid, because you still had the
right.
pages to show.
I'm curious how idiosyncratic or almost irreverent or even ludicrous were any of the letters initially? And were the conversations, hey, this is too quirky, or this isn't, I mean, you're a naturally elegant and charming person.
Oh, thank you.
So the question
Oh my
becomes,
gosh.
the question becomes, like at any point creatively, did you go down rabbit holes where you wrote a number of examples that you just could not use or didn't match the sensibility overall?
Well, again, Writers Boot Camp, you always talk about like taking a scene and writing it 10 different ways or 50 different ways, right? How are the different ways that you can do it? So that's kind of like what I drew from, like what are the 50 top wedding gifts, and I wrote thank you notes for all of it, and then I just picked the ones that I thought were the best.
That stood out. Like, thank you for the vacuum cleaner,
Right,
the one touch vacuum
right.
cleaner.
But but bringing it back, like how did it happen for me? I got one pass letter after another. I mean, maybe 25, which is devastating, right? And at that time, publishing was more alive and well in the world. Things have changed a lot right now, right? Because we're more digital.
Hmm.
So and I think my agent was getting a little bit frustrated, and because you're not sending the book out, you're sending out a book proposal, right? One
Which looks like
publisher,
an outline in a chapter.
what it looks like is a marketing plan. It's about the author, about the book overview, your marketing plan. Um, uh, and today it's expanded to how many followers do you have? Who do you know? What is your past press? Do you have a blog? Do you have a podcast? If you have 50,000 followers or 80,000 followers, you're getting a book deal. It's happening. If you have 1 million
Hmm.
followers, they want to talk to you. So it's
Right.
very, very different right now.
And did
So,
you do anything extra to market it once you had the deal?
well, at that time, just bringing it back to what you asked me, what was the difference was a publisher said if Crane and Company was sponsored you or endorsed you, we would be interested. And I was like, Crane and Company, it's one of the best stationery houses in the world. How do I get there? I just called them cold, and they made me an offer to buy the book, and they endorsed the book. And it was like taking a chance that you never thought was going to happen, a cold call. And they offered me a lot of money. And then Barnes & Noble, Sterling Publishing came back. They made me a lower offer, but I took the offer because that put me in the bookstores.
Got it.
So that's what I did
And was
there.
Crane disappointed, or were they still involved?
They stayed involved.
Okay.
They stayed involved until, what happened is computers and the digital world took over, and
So in a way,
they're sold.
you produced your own book. You took a proactive stance.
Yes. Yes.
And where was that? And was that experience from the prior positions you held with Freddie and other producers?
Right. So I worked for Freddie Fields, who was one of the top agents in the
Was
entertainment
Freddie at
industry.
William Morris when I was there in the training program? I think he still was.
I think Freddie founded ICM and CMA, Creative Management Associates, right, which became ICM. and he was a very difficult personality to work for. He was hard. It was, and I'm not saying that like in a negative way. I'm saying that it was like everything had to be done tomorrow. Like, I mean,
Front
yesterday,
line of
front
fire.
line, right? And so whatever he demanded, and I shouldn't say demanded because this is the way Hollywood was at the time. We did it. We did it. It was done. You want,
No, there were many stories,
yeah,
not only in the William Morris training program, but at various, producer companies with phones being thrown and just the speed with which,
right,
we were rolling calls, which I don't know that most of our peers do that anymore. And
right.
yet so often a lot of old school friends and colleagues are on the phone much more. You need, but mostly you're getting on the phone because you're scheduling it through email or
Right.
it is
Right.
overwhelming when we get, we're constantly barraged with texts and emails
Right.
and calls are coming in when you're already on a call.
Right. It was a totally different world. Like, you didn't you didn't ask why, you did it. Absolutely. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yeah, always addressed him as Mr. Fields.
Right.
It was old Hollywood. I mean, he represented Judy Garland, right?
Hmm.
And I grew up in the entertainment industry. My father, Richard Learman, is an assistant director, and so I had spent a lot of time on set, so I knew the rules of what the expectations and the standards were. So I just
Yeah, and
did
the tiered system of who had achieved a certain level of stature.
correct. I knew who
So
everyone was, and I knew everybody, and yeah,
So going back to, and obviously your experience would warrant, as other alumni, our long form interviews, which we're just digitizing and gathering video, and not all of them are on video, but I've got about 500 of those before this Creative Currency series. And
hmm
with 30 minutes or a few minutes over, we're covering a lot of ground in a short period of time.
right.
But going back to just the writing process and publishing, it would appear to me that your skill set also includes the capacity to edit yourself. And in publishing, and especially with more narrative material, as opposed to either, case study or how to or lists of do's and don'ts, where there could be more white space, blank space in pages, and they couldn't be shorter books. How much did you proactively lead your own editing process, and how tough was that on the first one, and has it gotten easier with the multiple, the extension of the series and also the variations and other books?
In my editing process, I
Yeah.
think that first of all, I think the most difficult thing for me to do was actually write the book proposal because that I had to, I spent months and months and months writing that. It was like over and over. When I actually wrote this book, it took me 6 weeks because I had been so hard-lined on that outline. I had everything outlined. I had every subject outlined. And then when I got to the business of writing it, you can't leave it unclear on the page and think, oh, I'm going to come back to that later, because later has arrived. You're giving those pages now to your publisher, and then the editor's coming back and editing it, and then 2 drafts later, we're printing. We're going to design copy. So you have to be really clear on what you want to say and how you want to say it. I will say that so I've written 5 books, right? I would say that in every experience, the publisher has given me leeway into writing what I want and saying it the way I want to say it. Many times when you get a draft back, it's like all redlined and you're overwhelmed and, oh my goodness, like how do I fix this? Like, what's going on? And I always go through first and like fix the easy things, like the commas, the periods, the little notes, and then the big things. I try to sit 24 hours and wait and digest it and decide like, oh, am I really going to fight for that? Do I like this? Do I like what's best for the book? So
Because
yeah,
it seems to me that in publishing, editors aren't always leaning toward structural notes. May not, I mean, I'm sure individual editors and associate publishers are great at providing notes, but it
Hmm.
seems to me in publishing, the challenge often is that independent writers pay for editing, and those editors aren't necessarily questioning concept and structure. Of
You
course,
know,
you had that
absolutely.
strength. You
Right.
had that strength. Then it does become about the words. But often, if somebody's doing a first draft of their book in their own vacuum, with support or not, of a sort through an educational experience, there's a tendency to get word based prematurely and overly linear. The cool thing is, you had the overview, you had the notes from the agent, meaning the experience of what the comments were and what was coming back.
Right. So I wrote this book on forgiveness too, right? In this book, my editor, her name is Darcy
Can you just
Abney.
state the title to us
It's
fully?
it's so
100.
I think this title is too long.
Yeah.
However, it's 101 ways to create mindful forgiveness, but it should have just been mindful forgiveness. But I should have fought harder. That's a lesson learned. But
But you
anyway,
didn't want the 101 to show up in a
I
certain place?
did, I did. But here's a note for everybody else. This book is about forgiveness, right? That should have been word number one or word number two. Because when you put it in the Amazon search, forgiveness, oh, I'm looking for how I'm going to, learn and forgive my mother or forgive my sister or, my boyfriend or whatever. This word is showing up at the end. So it's not coming up first in the search, right? Which is really, really important. Like, in one word, what's your book about? Just like when you teach in Writers Boot Camp, what's one word that your screenplay is about, right? So, anyway, Darcy, my editor, she decided that I needed a whole new chapter first on what mindful forgiveness was, or in meditation and things like that. This book, I tried to just make it like forgiveness is such a vast subject. I thought, what is an easy way for people to just access what I've learned? And that's how this book grew to be. This was like an accident. This came from another publisher who asked me to write a book on how to say you're sorry, which
And,
is how writing evolves,
right, and well, the
Right.
active extension of the thinking process, but
Right.
also journaling is not always direct preparation for chapter and subsequent points of emphasis.
Right.
But was a book like that, did it benefit from a kind of journaling?
Absolutely, because I think with journaling, you
Because it's
are.
so personal.
Yes. And I think it allows you to have an open heart and understand like what you're really feeling. Like, I think sometimes we walk, especially if we're sensitive, we walk around and we don't verbalize or vocalize unless you're going to therapy. But, I personally don't vocalize how I'm feeling all the time. And so when I write it and I stop and I think, okay, what is really bothering me?
That's
And
why
I
you're
write it
so
down.
interesting, because there's something bubbling under the surface. We're like trying to figure it out. Like,
What?
why is there so
Thanks,
much
Jeff.
energy in the room? Well, just
Oh,
just as we wind down and wrap up a little bit, and this has been so great, and it's just great to talk to you on any
thank you.
level.
Thank you.
Practical advice in terms of when you go out, when somebody new is creating their proposal, are there three or four parts to it? And I've known for some time that I emphasize when our writers, whether in basic training or project group and pro membership, are working on prose projects, they're double spaced. Usually, I don't love reading Times New Roman and Courier, which is what publishers tend to want. And I think it's
Right.
10 point, but then they print an 11 point. We prefer when somebody's working on something 12 point so that it's more readable, so
Hmm.
that in order to support them. But are there any, you know, thumbnails or recommendations that you could make to somebody new about, format and even whether it's proposal, whether it's actual chapters.
Sure. I'm happy to come back and go into this more in depth. Typically, a book proposal is your marketing plan about the author, overview of the book. I've added a sample of what sample back cover as another selling tool. It should be in 12 pitch Times New Roman. It should be double spaced. Sometimes I cheat and do, 1.5. There should be a table of contents. Did I say about the author in your picture?
Yeah. And then go back to the marketing plan. How many parts of that? Demographic, brands, companies,
All of that.
types of publishers,
All of that. All of that.
numbers.
You
And
have to have.
where are you gathering that from? By reading, by the internet, by comparison?
So what you have to do is you have to put books in the marketplace, right? So this is all different layers. And you have to go on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and you have to look at comparison books. So, I like, for instance, the thank you book, which is there's 2 new versions up on Amazon now. This book is out of print, but, so I would have to go and compare my book to like Emily Post and say, why my book is different and why my book is better. I'm working on a new intuition book. So right now I have to look at like, what are the other books that are competing in the marketplace? Is it current? Is it relevant? Are people wanting it? I use Google Trends sometimes as a point of information, and like I put in forgiveness versus how to say you're sorry. And when were people looking for ways to learn how to apologize? I noticed that there was a high trend for that during COVID, which I thought was kind of interesting because people are being more reflective during that time. So I used all of these things. Also, like in the intuition book, I found a New York Times article. According to the New York Times, people are believing more. I put that in the proposal. Again, I'm happy to, this is a whole other
Oh, that's
conversation.
great.
Happy to come back. I keep it about 50 pages, my proposal, and I include 3 sample chapters in these how-to books.
They're shorter chapters, right?
Yeah, it's about 10 to 15 pages maybe. Just because people want quick and easy information. They want to know how to do it in a paragraph. They want to know how to access information, right? I think the digital age has changed us into wanting like fast, easy capsules of, oh, how do I lose weight in, a day, right? They just want the answer.
Right.
So, yeah. So this is a whole
So
thing, which I'm happy to come back and do.
yeah, 2 last things. Very helpful. Very good
Sure.
to see you. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure.
How can, if anybody wants to contact Kelly, you can email me, jg@writersbootcamp.com, just to vet those, and we're happy to pass that along. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Writers Bootcamp, and also ping me at writers_boot_camp at our Instagram. We'll have clips available. Any last recollections of an exercise or a tool at Writers Bootcamp, and any comment about inspiration or something motivational to writers and artists out there?
Sure. I think one of the really wonderful tools that you've taught me is brainstorming, and how looking at those different conceits of how to do things a different way that we haven't seen before. That's always stayed with me. I think that we write very conversationally, and then when you go out of the box like that, it opens your eyes up. And also, I think you've talked about listening to other people's conversations and noticing character and what people, do versus what they say. That's helped me a lot. And I just so appreciate the honor of being in your class. And
Wow.
I look forward. No, but it's true. Like
Thank you.
I've come in at different times in my life, and I always learn something more. And it's not just a class you take once. It's a class that keeps you disciplined and professional, and I'm so grateful.
And
So
right,
keep
various
writing.
projects.
The secret to writing is writing, is what I would say.
Kelly, thanks so much. Safe
Thank you.
travels. Thanks, everyone. We have a basic training starting 10 weeks to take an idea through 3 drafts. Feel free to ping me on LinkedIn. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Brad Miller on staff, our Director of Development. We appreciate you. Thanks again to Kelly Browne, a very inspirational person, an old friend and an alumnus of Writers Boot Camp from years ago, which has contributed to her success. Thanks so much.